Hello everyone, my name is Matt Hunter. I'm your host for Anarchist Revolution. I'm also the administrator for the Canadian Facebook page that's called Canadian Students for Liberty. I would encourage you guys to go check that out. I'm trying to start up a new movement, try to spur up some college and university students that are like-minded to value of personal liberties and individualism. So check out that. I also put out some content on the YouTube channel I just started for that as well. So today I want to reach out to you Canadians who value individual liberty and freedom and that believe that without a victim a crime cannot exist. We see the growth of our tyrannical government and the shredding of our Bill of Rights on a daily basis. The waste of money, resources, and human lives that our current foreign government claims each and every year that goes by. And I want to do something about it. And I'm pretty sure you guys out there watching this want to do something as well. And we now live in a world that you're 8 times more likely to be killed by a cop than you are a terrorist. You're 2 times more likely to be sexually assaulted by a cop than you are a civilian. And the number of Americans killed by police now outnumbers the number of Americans killed in the war in Iraq. So there's some huge problems facing our society today. But yet every time we turn on a TV or pick up a newspaper, we hear about this propaganda about the biggest problem facing our world today is terrorism and terrorists. And by the statistics that I just read you guys, we should be more concerned about our local police officers. Now I would agree with them. I think the biggest problem this world is facing today is terrorism. But I would only argue that the terrorists are the bankers and the people in Washington that are controlling and pulling the strings of society. Now, we can see our Bill of Rights and Constitution slowly being eroded away, like a boiling pot of water with a frog in it. And our first right to free speech, media, and peaceful assembly, we can see being attacked by the crackdown on whistleblowers worldwide. Media and journalists and activists are harassed at protests when they're trying to cover them. If they're outspoken against the state, they're harassed as well. And we also see a huge and heavy police presence at these peaceful protests now, which we didn't see in the past. We also see that here in Canada we do not enjoy a Second Amendment like they do in the United States. We have the Second Amendment states we have the right to keep and bear arms. Here in Canada we can keep arms, but we can't bear them. Here in Canada, you must have your gun and your ammo in separate places. What good is that? What good is it to have a Second Amendment here in Canada? What good is it to have the right to protect your life if you have an unloaded gun? Now, our Constitution in Canada specifically states that we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the right to life. And in order to grant someone the right to life, you would assume that that person has the right to defend their life. Because how do you have the right to life if you can't defend it? It's just common sense. But yet here in Canada, if you want to have a pistol or a gun or something as protection, let's say a woman wants to carry a gun in her purse at night. Maybe she's walking home downtown Toronto at night and she would feel a lot safer if she had a handgun in her purse. Not allowed. Well, she could have it, but it would have to be in a safely stored, and the ammo would have to be safely stored in a separate place. So can you imagine if, let's say, a house robber comes to your house and bangs through the front door, telling that robber, 1 second, I gotta go down and get the ammo out of my other safe here and load my gun up? No. When second counts, you can't have that kind of situation. It's the same with the whole police thing. We have the right to keep and bear arms, not for hunting, but for our protection. Because bad guys and criminals out there have guns. And the only way a bad guy or a good guy can protect himself against a bad guy with a gun is the good guy to have a gun. It's just common sense. And for all you out there who called and don't want guns, I'll tell you what. Us constitutionalists and us libertarians and anarchists, we'll turn our guns in the minute the government turns in theirs. And until that happens, it ain't going to happen. Because that gun is not the right to hunt. It's not the right, it's not a privilege. No, it's how you protect yourself. It's how you protect your family. Why do police have guns? Their protection. So anyone out there calling for a gun confiscation or gun laws or stricter gun laws, it's so absurd, because if you just go by the basis that criminals don't abide by laws. Name one bank robber that walked up to a bank and said, oh, sorry, we can't go in here and rob this bank because there's not allowed to have guns in banks. It's ridiculous. Laws only hurt law-abiding citizens. So that is the major flaw with the gun debate right now. RCMP here in Canada just recently went above and beyond our Congress and labeled 2 guns, rifles, that they have now classified them as restricted. You can't own them. You can't have them in here. So the RCMP overnight made hundreds of Canadians who currently own these certain rifles that they're banning, made them criminals overnight. And the RCMP is supposed to enforce the laws, not write the laws. That's what Congress does. So I would encourage Canadians out there to look into this and be more upset about it, that our RCMP is basically declaring themselves as dictators, and they can claim which guns you're allowed to own and which you're not, which is completely contradictory to what the RCMP is supposed to be set up to begin with, to begin with. Too often do I see hunters back home who get jailed or fined for improper storage of their firearms. Maybe they have a rifle sitting in the back of their bed of their truck or something. They come out of the woods hunting. And I see RCMP always back home, especially in my hometown, New Brunswick, harassing hunters and stuff about that. Coming up to them and writing big hefty fines for improper storage of a firearm. Not realizing that they're slowly encroaching on our individual rights to protection. Also, I would point out that with the new revelations that the Edward Snowden leaks have provided us, we now know that we don't have a Fourth Amendment. Every single thing you do is being spied on and monitored. Whether it's your text messages, emails, phone calls, all your means of communications are being stored and spied on through our local governments. And this is a huge problem. Now, I know a lot of adults out there, and I've even questioned a lot of people out there, and the most common rebuttal or argument I get against this is, well, it's keeping us safe, and, well, I don't have nothing to hide, I'm not doing nothing wrong. Well, I would like to point out that just think of all the young children, very young children, who take these cell phones, these smartphones, into the bathrooms with them, or have them in their bedrooms while they're changing and stuff like that. And I would argue that having these methods to spy on their citizens, I would argue that the NSA is now guaranteed the biggest holder of child pornography in the world. And that everyone working in at the NSA who has access to tap into these webcams that the Edward Snowden leaks have shown us could potentially be peering at our young children while they're changing. For the people out there that argue, well, I got nothing to hide, don't worry about yourself. Think about the children out there changing or in the bathroom in front of these smartphones or their computer webcams at night, and the gross violation of their privacy of these young kids. And I think that is the real issue we should bring up, is that the NSA is probably the largest data center for child pornography, and they should be there's no reason they should be spying on us. Absolutely not. It's ridiculous. I can continue to list more and more ways that our Constitution is being violated. As I stated before, our freedom of speech and press and journalists are being harassed, so the First Amendment's gone. Our Second Amendment, we don't have the right to carry guns here in Canada. Gone. Our Fourth Amendment, the NSA Snowden leaks have showed you, we have no right to privacy and stuff like that. Gone. Now I can continue down the list and show you where each individual right has been violated by the government, but for time's sake, I'm going to continue on and get to the root of the problems and why I did this video. I want to offer up some solutions for you guys and address why these things are even allowed to happen and why is it even socially acceptable to us and why it's allowed to happen. So, the two major problems I see with government in its current form and why the system is so acceptable is, first, is because you're not built in the now, you're built in the future. Future generations are built for this through debt, and I see that being a huge problem. Can you imagine how many people, let's say Obama got up on, let's say Stephen Harper was up there and they're warmongering and they want to go to war with Syria like we just seen here previous. the United States wanted to go to war with Syria. Can you imagine how many Canadians and Americans or taxpayers would want to go to war if they would be billed immediately for that war? So can you imagine Stephen Harper coming out and saying, oh, this is a hypothetical, we're going to go to war with Syria, so everyone be prepared, you're going to get an extra increase of $50 on your monthly bill, you're going to have to raise your taxes to pay for this war. No, there'd be outcry because there's so many more poor people. People don't want to pay for wars. Of all the things that they can spend their money on, people don't want to pay for wars. But yet we see wars continuing to happen. Why is that? Well, it's because they're just billing it to the future generations who aren't born yet, who can't even have a say in the matter if they want to pay for those wars. So the major problem I have is not only the fact that we're building the future, but think about these children, me in particular, being a young person, growing up in all this debt. I never had a say in this government debt. They just spent it before I was born, and I was born into this debt. Now, isn't that kind of messed up that I don't even have a say in it, but I have to pay for it? So that's another huge flaw of this current form of government, is the fact that we're allowed to bill future generations for the now. It's completely irresponsible, and it's irrational. Also, the huge problem we have with government today is that they're paid for through violent, forceful removal of your property, which is taxation. And taxation is nothing but theft. Okay? If a guy walking down the street walks up to you, a mugger, and says, "Hey, hand me your wallet. I want $40 out of your 100," you would scream at that guy saying he's a thief. But yet, because government does it in the form of taxation, you think it's acceptable. And I say, the minute that people are guaranteed their paychecks through violent, forceful taxation, accountability goes out the window. Can you imagine, let's say you worked at Best Buy, and no matter what you did on the job, you were guaranteed to get paid? Now, how good would your productivity be? What would be the incentive to work hard or do better each year that goes by? There is no incentive for government. No matter what, they're guaranteed their paychecks through violent taxation. So when you guarantee someone a paycheck, accountability goes out the window. It's common sense. And that's what government workers are. It's very hard to fire them. And no matter what, each month your paycheck gets docked tax money without your saying it. So that's why, and that's the reason why government has got so tyrannical and so corrupt, because they have no accountability, because their money's taken at the barrel of a gun. Okay? Taxation is simply a man with a gun pointed at your head saying, you better pay into the system. And you people better start realizing that. And until we move into a system that's based off voluntarism, now, can you imagine, let's say here in Canada, Stephen Harper, terrible Prime Minister. Now, can you imagine how easy it would be if we could simply stop paying our taxes next month? The whole system would crumble and they'd be begging at our knees, hey, what do we need to do to get paid next month? Please. We'll do whatever you need to do. And that's where you get accountability. But in its current form, we have no accountability because they're promised their money through violent taxation. Also, politicians are the only person who can promise you one thing and give you nothing. They have nothing, there's no contract to them. A politician could run for office and say, hey, when I get in to be president, I'm going to lower taxes. He gets in to be president, taxes aren't lowered. No accountability. It's just to say, can you imagine walking into Best Buy, going back to a sales rep. Sales reps say to you, hey, I'm going to sell you this iPad for $200. You say, holy crap, an iPad for $200, I can't pass up that deal. You get to the counter, the cashier tells you that'll be $800. You say, whoa, 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 whoa. Sales rep told me the iPad was $200. Well, sorry, we're reneging, it's now $800. You would not go through with that deal. But you have no choice with government. A politician runs, he promises you all these good things. He gets into position, into power, and does none of those. Why? Because he's guaranteed his paycheck. Now, for those of you out there that, oh, how could we have a voluntary tax system? Seems complicated. You pay your mortgage every month. Why couldn't we have a system set up where it's like you pay your mortgage and you got to also pay a bill to the government for taxes that pay for your roads and your education system and healthcare and all that stuff? If it was voluntary, we would eliminate all these problems. We'd start to have accountability. Tax rates here in Canada, I'm just going to guess, but by the time you pay your income tax, your property tax, tax on the gas, tax on the grocery store, tax for this, I'd say we probably are taxed 40 to 60% of our wages. That we only actually keep maybe 30 to 40%, depending on what bracket of money you make each year. And I would argue that that 60% taxes taken out of us. It's waste. A lot of it's waste. A lot of it's going to the $1.2 billion spy agency that the Canadian government wants to build, wars that we do not want to sign up for, military spending, drone programs, police spying, militarizing of the police, things that if you would write down and say, hey, would you actually want to pay into these things? Of course you'd not want to spend your tax money on them. But you have no say in where it goes. And that's where accountability goes out the window, like I said again. Where if it was set up in a system of voluntarism, we could eliminate all these problems. So if you want the world to be at a better place, here's my step programs, okay? First off, you need to have a system that's based off of voluntarism like the free market. So if a politician or whoever it is isn't doing what they say they're going to do, they can be fired or they can be taken out of office for that. So we need voluntarism. Voluntarism's key. That's why I'm an anarchist. That's why I am a huge follower of the libertarian movement, the non-aggression principle. If violence is a bad way to solve complex social problems, then by definition, government is terrible. It's wrong. So I'm hoping these ideas, I hope you guys can wrap your head around where I'm trying to come from. It's not very complicated stuff. We tell our kids, 2-year-old, 3-year-olds, don't hit, don't steal, don't kill and stuff. But yet government does every one of those things. Kills through wars, steals through taxation. So we're dealing with a moral premises here, okay? That we're raising generations of kids, telling them to act a certain way, but yet our parents and the government and all the authority figures in their life don't act like that. It sets a bad precedence, and it shows the kids that we don't abide by the principles that we installed on them as young as 2, 3 years old, that don't hit, don't steal, but yet as adult we allow theft in the form of taxation on a daily basis. It's appalling. So I'm going to end it with that here. I would also encourage you guys to just look at government in its current form in the last 100 years. Look at the track record of government. In the last 100 years, have we got more free, less free? Have we got more in debt or less in debt? Everything's got worse. There's less jobs now. We're more in debt. Nothing is working. Just look at the last 100 years track record of government and tell me what good has come out of it. Nothing. Well, please don't write any comments out there, well, who will build the roads and stuff like that. People build the roads. Government are just people claiming authority in positions of power. That's it. They're just me and you. Who would build the roads without a government? The construction companies that we would hire to build those roads, pooling in our money into a voluntary type system. We would get our money's worth that way. It'd be a lot cheaper. I guarantee you could cover healthcare, I guarantee you could cover healthcare, roads, everything our current government provides us and the poor. We could probably do that for half, not even half, fraction of the cost that we pay for it now. I mean, think about this. Think about the welfare and the poor. So we donate money to welfare, who then gives it to the poor. Now that middleman, you have to pay that government employee $80,000 to $100,000 a year to give the welfare person $10,000, $15,000 a year to live. It's absurd! If you eliminated the middleman, the government bureaucracy, you could give the poor person enough that he could be so wealthy enough he could live on his own. He'd be better off. Government bureaucracy takes up a lot of waste. Government was designed to protect the people, not enslave the people, but that's what we have now. We're enslaved by our government. We're ruled by our government. If you don't think so, stop paying your taxes. You'll find out how quick you're ruled. Matt Hunter for Anarchist Revolution, signing off.